In a world where the sun's temperature makes the surface uninhabitable during the day, and skin-wearing visitors try to infiltrate your house at night, you might wonder who is stronger, the visitors or humans? In this video, I cover the strongest characters in the entire game, providing an in-depth analysis on their story and lore, and later an unofficial power ranking. So let's get straight into the video, starting with the most relevant and arguably important to the story, the government organization known as FEMA. The first time we hear about FEMA is actually on the TV. The news reporter announces the creation of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which has notably led to the discovery of a new visitor sign, dirt under the fingernails. On the television, they refer to themselves as the heroes who will protect us from the visitor invasion, identifying up to 27,000 anomalies in just the few days that it's been active. They also give us a number we can call, which gives us pretty useless clarification on the visitor signs, unless we truly forgot about them. The next day, they can be seen through the window, conducting some unknown exam around your neighbor's house. They can also be spotted on a nearby window, taking notes and removing the charred bodies sitting by the field, while a group of soldiers protect them. When morning comes around, we get the news that FEMA has organized new quarantine zones to put potential visitors in, and by experimenting with the people inside, they have discovered a new visitor sign, blood red eyes. We then get a small snippet explaining FEMA's creation. The Federal Emergency Management Agency was a special government service formed in response to this sudden crisis. While what they are working on is secret, their ranks include expert scientists and researchers. They iterated that the best thing we can do is diligently follow the commands of any FEMA employees that knock on our door. On night 4, we finally got a visit from a FEMA employee. He tells us that they're checking in with the residents of our neighborhood. We ask if he's alone, and he responds they just split into smaller groups to be more efficient. Our character asks if we need protective gear, since he's wearing it, but the FEMA agent says it's unnecessary. They just wear it as a precaution since they are outside for so long. He then tells us that they need to take one of our residents and run some tests on them to see if they are a visitor. We ask if we need to pack, but the FEMA agent says we shouldn't. Since we are the homeowner, we are to stay inside unless explicitly told to evacuate. He then randomly takes one of our guests, then leaves. When morning comes, the news announces that FEMA has enacted a new protective measure restricting travel to any nearby regions or cities. They also reveal a new visitor sign, hairless armpits. On another channel, FEMA discloses that the visitors may be an infectious biological threat, where if you suspect someone, handing them a special slip will prioritize them for the next collection round. At night, we can see FEMA soldiers examining the bodies of the soldiers who were utterly destroyed by the intruder. A FEMA agent comes knocking on our door again, saying that they are just doing a routine check. We ask when they will return the person they took, and he gives us a quick explanation, outlining how they have to be quarantined after being screened. We tell him that we aren't interested in these tests, but he remarks that we don't have a choice, and that it's going to happen no matter what, while taking one of our guests with him as he leaves. On the television, we get yet another sign, that being film photography. The fact that it appears as a sponsor after the news segment probably means that it's not really a reliable sign, and that the organization is just pushing it to make a quick buck. When night comes around, we can see the aftermath of a FEMA agent gunning down a bunch of survivors, probably because they were trying to escape the city unpermitted. On the news, we get information confirming this, as FEMA has sealed off the area due to civil unrest in a nearby city. Someone on the radio is even warning us to not try and leave, otherwise we will be gunned down. The news once again tells us that visitors are an unknown biological agent, and that if you have been exposed or suspect yourself to be one, that you should call the FEMA hotline. On day 8, we get notified that an unknown armed individual attacked one of the quarantine zones, with several individuals using it as an opportunity to escape. They tell us that corpse disposal is temporarily halted and to cremate the deceased whenever possible. On the radio, we get a hint at what attacked the quarantine zones, with them saying it wasn't a human. At night, we can see them again, this time putting the people from the quarantine zones inside your neighbor's houses. Another agent knocks on our door, asking for more test subjects. We ask what's going on, and he responds that it's the repercussions for not listening to them. We ask how long this will continue, and he comments that he doesn't know, and that we should just listen to him to get this whole situation over with, he forces us to give him 2 people this time, once again saying that they will be returned. On the news, it's revealed that after the attack to the quarantine zone, they decided to put any evacuated residents in the nearby houses. FEMA then announces another visitor sign, being bleeding gums. The radio tells us that the local homeowners didn't really cooperate with FEMA. Instead, they were kicked out and decided to take refuge in our neighbor's burnt-down house. When night comes, a FEMA officer can be seen examining the dead dogs by the fields, possibly trying to find a way to stop the animals. The news gives us a new discovered sign, that being skin irritation. A random signal on the radio tells us that FEMA is trying to jam all the other radio signals and that we should avoid their patrols at all costs. On night 10, a FEMA officer comes for even more subjects. We demand to know where the people they took are, but he shows his frustration by threatening us. Our character asks what it's going to take to fix all of this, and he simply says 2 more people. He remarks that this is the last time we are seeing each other, as they either find a way to defeat the visitors or die. That was, of course, the last time a FEMA agent actually knocks on our door, and the rest about the association can be heard on the television. They label the cult as a new threat, telling us to report them to the hotline. They also discovered a new sign, fungal growth underneath the armpits. When we tune into the radio, we actually pick up on a FEMA team's communications. There was a heavy amount of interference, but we can take away that burning bodies have led to an unforeseen consequence. Day 12, FEMA announces their last visitor sign, rapid pupil movement. It was cut short as the news station was being attacked. We also pick up another FEMA communication on the radio. We hear them replacing one of their operations, where instead of burning the bodies, they have to apply some substance, which I'm going to assume is lime to contain an unknown subject. When it becomes night, we finally get a glimpse of what they were talking about. An entity, referred to as IT, crawls across the field behind some FEMA agents, who were carefully documenting the cultists' deaths. We then get breaking news that FEMA has arrested most of the government officials, saying that they were identified as visitors. Because of this, FEMA has now taken the place of the government. They then say that fugitives from the cities have broken through their lockdown. The final message given is to barricade our windows and lock ourselves inside. We receive one more radio message from FEMA, where a unit says that they could not contain the subject, with it escaping the city, desperately calling for backup since they cannot take him alone. FEMA overall is just another corrupt government organization. Their methods are most similar to the Vigilante, where they operate on extremely rough and fallible evidence. In truth, even FEMA knows extremely little about the visitors, proving that humanity has little hopes of defeating them. All that they provided was a little comfort on the television, handing out hope that this nightmare would eventually end. There is also an ending that you can reach where the protagonist actually becomes a FEMA officer. If you call enough times, don't question the agent that goes to your door and hand out the quarantine zone slips to your guests. They will actually conscript you to be one. Kind of like the man in a hazmat suit. It's basically revealed that almost all of the FEMA agents aren't truly competent enough to deal with the visitors. They are pretty much just a bunch of loyal city folk that wave their guns around and follow orders. The surgeon is another character that worked for FEMA briefly, and he tells us that the visitor signs are pretty much bogus. He remarks that they are all common human signs, and that the signs weren't even properly explained to them. The doctors were left completely in the dark, forced to trust an organization filled with mystery. Now, let's move on to the creature known only as IT. While we only see the creature once, we actually learn a lot about it from external sources such as the blind man and the radio. So, we first have to cover what the blind man tells us. When he knocks on the door, he feels relieved to find some shelter. We ask what happened to his eyes, where he says that he saw an indescribable horror known as IT, and that he ripped out his eyes himself to try and remove the image, which obviously didn't work. We try to ask what he saw, and he tells us that there was a creature that feasts on our sorrow, pain, and fear. He went to the wrong place at the wrong time and saw it devouring charred bodies from the sun right in front of him. The next day, we asked what he saw again, but he tried to hide it from us for our own safety. He talks about how he thought by removing his eyes he would be free from the creature, but it now haunts his dreams. After that, we ask if it's better to not have eyes. He isn't sure, but the blind man is happy that he won't see it again. Despite all of the pain and difficulties being blind brings, he still believes he made the correct choice. On the third day, we comment that he's looking rough. He jokes that maybe he needs to comb comb his hair, but he later reveals that he had a nightmare where the creature snatched another person in the street as a trolley passed him, with him desperately chasing it to find out the truth. Our character gets even more worried as we then ask if he is okay. The blinded man tells us about another dream. This time, the monster was actually chasing after him. He tried to escape to his house, but he fumbled with his keys too much and had to hop over a few fences. Eventually, he stopped, noticing that the monster caught up to him and was reaching out to grab him. Our final conversation with this man ends with asking if he had another dream. This time, he wouldn't tell us about it, simply remarking that we are all destined to die, that the creature will tear us all apart, and that nothing matters anymore. For the safety of my channel, I cannot show you what happens to him next, but he basically decides that he doesn't want to be constantly tormented by that creature anymore. The last time we hear of it is on the radio. We can accidentally pick up on some FEMA officers' broadcasts where they tell us that they made a mistake by burning the bodies, probably because it feasts on charred flesh, and that another substance, such as lime, should be applied instead. They refer to it as the subject, where they call for immediate backup as it has actually left the city's perimeter, probably to spread havoc to the entire world. While we do not know what its true form looks like, we can see a black body running through our backyard's field, probably caught eating the burnt corpses of the cultists, and even though it is not confirmed, it is probably a subspecies or the primordial form of a visitor. It is the strongest creature in the entire game, completely ignoring FEMA's presence and only moving when it runs out of food. And I found a little bit more information on the creator's Twitter. Before the game's release, he posted a video showing a closer-up video of it eating another person in the streets of Venice. It is not known if this takes place before or after the story, but considering how undamaged the place looks, it was probably before. Next up, we are going to cover the Mobster. While he might seem like a normal person, he is one of the most outwardly cruel guests we can let inside our house. When he knocks on our door, he comments how society is over and beasts have come out. He also comments that he doesn't have to hold back. We ask what he is talking about, and he responds by saying we should just take a look around, noticing how rules have gone out the window and violence now rules the streets. We inquire on how many houses he has been in, with the Mobster saying he hasn't stayed in one for too long. Everyone is too fearful to maintain proper order, but he takes interest in how organized our house is. The next day, we ask him why he sees people as animals, where the Mobster tells us how we kill and eat what we kill just like they do, where the only thing keeping those natural desires on a leash is society. Our character asks what he means again, and the Mobster tells us even more about his philosophy, where basic truths have been taken over society, mainly the idea of packs, where each pack has an alpha, and the pack, when threatened, will kill others. We question him why he thinks packs are better than society, and he refers to visitors as sheep in wolf's clothing, where in a normal society there are too many rules which are heavily debated to effectively kill them, and an alpha is extremely vital as he shows no weakness while handling out swift judgment, where the pack members must follow blindly, asking no questions while following the alpha's orders. The next day we ask why he is staring at our gun. The Mobster notices that we show the traits of an alpha, where we keep everyone in line, but the only issue he has is with the people we let inside. We ask what's wrong with them, where the Mobster blankly says that we gathered a bunch of weaklings. He asks us what's the use of the young, old and sick when all they will do is make up a weak pack. Our character asks what we should do, and the Mobster recommends that we should cut the weak inhabitants loose. But instead of kicking them outside of the house, we kill them publicly as an example, tightening our power over them. We tell him we only kill visitors, but he says we should stop babying them. He then goes on a little rant, talking about how he used to run the streets and people both respected and feared him. One day, a cabbie refused to take him, so he broke every bone in his body, killing him. The man he is talking about is actually the taxi driver's father. We then have our last conversation with the Mobster, where we ask why he doesn't have a pack of his own. He turns the question back to us, where we have a few options to choose. If we press an option that shows strength, our conversation actually ends and he stays as a normal guest in our house. But if we say something weak, such as to save ourselves from the intruder, he gets emboldened to try and take over the pack. After some yelling, he pulls out his gun, trying to shoot us. But before he can murder us, we grab our shotgun and shoot him first, where he actually seems proud of us doing so. The Mobster definitely shows a primal outlook on how humans should function, but one that is actually necessary in this circumstance. Whether we like it or not, our character actually embodies the ideals he is talking about perfectly, even to the point where we do it better than him, shown by the fact that he hasn't formed his own strong pack and intends to just steal our house for himself. Now we are going to cover my favorite character, the Vigilante. While he is not a visitor, he is one of the most deadly characters in the entire game. The first time that we see him is actually on night 7 through a window, where he is looking through a field for anyone hiding. He then knocks on our door the next day, commenting that it's good we are keeping our distance to improve our chances of survival. We ask who he is, and he comments that he's just someone who goes around cleaning the filth that are visitors. We jokingly ask if that's a broom in his hands, where he agrees, saying that he could do it with his bare hands if he needs to, but the gun makes it easier. He also adds that the most effective way is to lock them in houses and burn them, foreshadowing a future night. We are about to ask him another question when he stops us, saying that it's his turn to ask questions. He wants to know about the threats around the neighborhood, where we can warn him about the pale visitor or FEMA agents, which makes him suspicious. The next night, we can see him out the window again. This time, he pulled out all of the squatters living in our neighbor's basement in a line, interrogating them. If we look out the same window the next day, we can see them all scattered across the floor, meaning he deemed them to be visitors. He decides to visit us again, and he says he didn't have luck finding a certain someone, and that our neighborhood is crawling with visitors. We ask how he spots them, and the Vigilante comments that he just follows the TV's and radio's directions, where one sign is enough to put them down. He then asks whether we know a fat guy with a denim jacket, who also has a little girl, which is an obvious reference to our neighbor. We tell him that his house burnt down, where he then forces us to prove that we aren't a visitor by showing him one of our body parts. After he lets us go and says he will come back, we can see him out the window holding what appears to be a gasoline can. The next night, all of the nearby houses are in complete flames, probably by the Vigilante. Considering what he said earlier, he probably forced all of the people he thought were visitors inside, then burned the houses to the ground. When night 12 comes around, he visits us for the last time. He reveals that the neighbor is actually his brother, and that he's disappointed he couldn't keep his family safe. We ask if he wants to find his daughter, but he says that it's just a waste of time. He then tells us about a story of a family on the outskirts of town. The wife had visitor signs, but the husband kept on pleading with the Vigilante to spare her. When other visitors came to the house, the husband opened the door to let the wife run away, where the Vigilante shot both her and the husband, with the kids somehow making it out alive. After that, FEMA came to clean up the house themselves, where the Vigilante told them that he already did it for them. They even asked him to join their organization, but he decided against it due to the fact that they bring visitors to the quarantine zones instead of taking them out on the spot. He checks us for visitor signs one more time, then leaves, never to return. His story can end earlier, as if we fail one of the visitor checks, we get one of the endings, where we both pull our guns on each other, with the protagonist actually winning. We then go on a spree hunting anyone who has weapons that want to commit similar acts of vigilantism. But one character that might be overlooked is actually the protagonist we play as, if we consider all of the things he is capable of doing, which is of course dependent on our choices. He turns out to be pretty powerful, but first, let's go over his short backstory. He is known as the Hermit, mainly because of his preference to be alone, with the neighbor being his only friend. He has a bad relationship with his father, opening up about it when interacting with some stuff in the house, on the phone roulette, and to the lady. He also appears to have an old pet cat and wife, which aren't talked about further. From then on, we can reach a ton of endings depending on the player's actions, and what it teaches us is how capable the protagonist is at survival. He has the strength to take down the Vigilante and even terrorize the whole neighborhood. If visitors mistakenly come into his house with no difficulties, the character is able to shoot them dead. And if all of the visitors inside the house were killed, he is even successful in surviving months after the start of the incident, when the sun's temperature calms down. Now that we have talked about the most powerful characters in the game, here's my unofficial ranking from weakest to strongest. The weakest would of course be the Mobster. Even though he talks big and carries a very dangerous philosophy, his inaction makes him pretty weak. Instead of trying to form his own gang from past connections, he tries to infiltrate our house to steal ours. And someone higher than him is the Vigilante. He is as ruthless as the Mobster, except he actually goes through with his words. But he is not super powerful, as truthfully he mainly attacks unarmed civilians at gunpoint. Then, of course, above him would be our own character. While we not only kill the Vigilante and Mobster ourselves, we also have above average survival skills. But we still pale in comparison to FEMA. Of course, one man doesn't stand a chance against a whole government organization, and our character allows them to take our guests unwillingly. While we do have an ending where we went on a rampage, if a group of FEMA officers got involved, we would probably just be gunned down like the rest of the civilians who don't comply. But even one of the most powerful government organizations doesn't stand a chance against visitors. They are the most mysterious group on this list, to the point that humanity has failed to study them in time. Even a large group like FEMA has failed to control their spread and massacre, resorting to barbaric solutions which still did not solve the problem. And the strongest among them is the intruder, who gives up on trying to pretend to be a human and just goes around massacring the city while spreading fear, wiping out armed patrols and anyone he deems to be a hindrance. While it is not confirmed if they are a visitor or not, the creature known as It takes the cake as the strongest character in the game. It lacks the remorse and mindset that every other visitor displays, and instead just kills anyone it sees to harvest their flesh. Its unrestrained behavior makes it dangerous and unpredictable, to the point that it just broke through squads of FEMA agents just for more food. If you want to learn about the stories of each visitor, including the intruder, check out the video on my channel. And of course, thank you for watching.